means we'll be using primarily technical analysis, but we will look, of course, at the fundamental news announcements to see if anything could impact the technical analysis trading. So that's starting in a few minutes, but I must warn you of this risk disclaimer explaining that trading global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. And this webinar is for educational purposes only. So we thank you for your attention on that one. Once again, welcome. My name is Chris. This is hosted by Admiral Markets. And tonight we have an educational webinar, I believe, on defining the trend, if my memory is correct. So today we'll be focusing on reversal trades, which still means we have to define the trend to be able to trade against it. Then we'll be looking for the opportunity, filters, the trigger, and the entry methodology, these 5 steps that we've been discussing more thoroughly this week. Make sure to take a look at Admiral Markets in the social media. And with that said, I'm going to say good morning to Michal, and after that we'll take a look at the charts.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for a lovely introduction, Chris. I'm pretty sure this webinar is going to be great, as it always is. Plenty of new stuff to learn for everybody. Allow me please to go to my presentation. There we go. Once again, my name is Michael Onochov, and here's all my contact information. I see a lot of new faces have attended this webinar this morning, so you can always contact me on this email, Skype, or LinkedIn, and also the email for trading camp is also here. Today I wanted to speak about something a little different. Let's take a break from charts, numbers, and currency pairs. Let's forget for a minute about Japanese candles and Fibonacci lines, but we can get back to a little later. Today I wanted to speak to you about something that applies to every single one of us. I wanted to speak to you about self-improvement. Self-improvement and personal growth has been a hot topic for a number of years, and that is very understandable. In this day and age, you must grow and develop yourself on a constant basis. You rely on books, you develop yourself in schools and universities, and you carry on in a professional career. Just like an investment, a price of a future is always worth more than a spot price. Yourself in the future also must be smarter and better equipped than you are today. Otherwise, a future you stands no chance. All of you took this time today to attend this webinar precisely for this reason, to develop yourself, to learn new things, and tomorrow, after you have watched this webinar, you will be smarter than you were today. But I would not advise to stop there. You have entered a new world, a world of investment, where money is made and lost, a world that is a battlefield for the brightest minds of our generation. Some of you are just considering to enter the new and exciting world. Some of you have taken some steps in order to explore it. Some of you are living and breathing investment. To those of you who are still considering to invest or not, you should consider the following. Once you enter the world of investment, you will change, and you will never be the same again. You will be better. Not only does investment give you a chance to learn, it gives you a chance to earn also. But no one guarantees you a win. What I can promise you, though, what I can guarantee you is this. Your horizons will broaden. Forex is a very demanding investment field. You will be required to follow the news, and you will be surprised how much more involved in current affairs you will become in just a few weeks. Technical and fundamental analysis will give you information in order to make correct split-second decisions. Your analytical skills will improve, and this is a tool that will help you not only in the financial market, but in all aspects of your everyday life. Decisiveness, Forex trading is all about the decision making. A second can separate a profit from a loss, and you will learn this skill. You will be one calling the odds. You will take this skill from the financial market, and you will be able to apply it to everything in your everyday life. After all, isn't life all about decisions too? You will see for yourself. It will no longer take you a few minutes to choose a meal in a new restaurant that has just, and this will be just a modest beginning. But most importantly, one day you will take a loss. It will happen. And once it happens, you will learn the most important skill, self-discipline. Believe me, money is a great motivator. one of the best motivators there is. And it will teach you that a profit is not a product of luck, it is a product of hard work and dedication. Those of you who invest regularly will agree with me. Investment is a trip worth taking. Mark my words. Register a real account today and make your first trade and see what happens. In a year, you will be able to look at yourself and you will know that this has been a journey worth taking. Thank you very much, guys. It's been Mikhail Olahov. If you have any questions or have any suggestions about changing those little presentations before the mini presentation, you can always let me know on the email. Thank you very much. I'll pass the floor back to Chris.
Thank you so much, Michal. Always great to hear from Michal. For today, we're going to take a look at the Forex calendar. As you probably know, there has been a budget deal reached in the U.S. and maybe therefore we saw quite a lot of ups and downs on the euro and pound, didn't we? The euro dollar and pound dollar, to be exact. Well, with that out of the way, in a way, for at least for some while and some time to come, because I think that the deal is only really lasting for a few months to give them more time to negotiate. We have here the pound retail sales and then later USD initial jobless claims. Alrighty, well, we'll start with the euro. I think that would be appropriate. We were talking about it yesterday, and yeah, the up move did test the top that I was talking about, and so I was saying that the safest stop loss is above 136.71. That indeed held, although it came very close. In fact, 135.67, and even pushed a bit through the 886, as you can see here. Let's zoom in. You can see if we put this fib on, it pushed to the 886, but we got a pin bar right at that wick, and then made a drastic fall. But the fall, as that's something we were talking about still, right? Look out for that reversal here, up in this zone. And the fall actually didn't go as far as maybe I thought it would go. It bounced off this trend line, made a new lower low, and didn't have any follow-through in the sense that there was divergence between those bottoms, and made a drastic up move. So it's a lot of choppiness, in fact. In fact, if you look at the 4-hour chart, you can see more or less a range on this entire month, ever since that FOMC spike up. And I'm opening my drawing tool as we speak here. Look, that's the FOMC spike, remember? And this is just a 200 pip range, really, the whole month. In fact, it could be even a smaller range if you exclude this spike up. It's really even like 150 pips. So the euro dollar really very modest in its movements, to say the least. So let's go back to that 1-hour chart. And you can see we're getting some rejection again off the same level. Who knows? We could maybe move back down again to this bottom and then bounce up again. I don't know. It's definitely in a range, right? So there's no trend here. So I don't think we can consider it's more. We cannot consider this a reversal trading, unless you are maybe looking at a trend on, I don't know what time frame. I don't think there is any trend really to be discovered here. It's just spikes up and down. Now, technically, yes, if you're a range trader, in fact, this would have been a great sell right in here. Maybe even here could be still a sell with a small stop loss above here. Personally, I'm not that excited about it, but it does make sense from a technical point of view. We do have this trend line. If that breaks too, maybe we can make that downside. I don't know what this line is. I get rid of this one. So that's the euro dollar, right? Short and simple. Boom, 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 boom. It's like a W, isn't it? And we might be making a reversal right now. That's all I have to say. In fact, we can move on to the pound. That too is in the same situation. Are we going to make a bigger reversal of this downside? a bigger reversal to the upside, or is this all the correction and we move down? At the moment, it's difficult to say. We have to either break, I would say, above this orange line at least, or otherwise below the green line to really have a definite answer to that. The upside, we were talking about the potential upside, remember yesterday here? It did happen, but then the 382 was the resistance spot. We didn't get a bull flag here, and we didn't get that break to the upside. So that was good. So if you were patient enough to wait for that, you didn't get, caught in that, and it made a pretty strong fall, in fact. So is there any trend? Not really. This is just spikes up and down. Although, if I think this webinar is actually range and reversal, isn't it? Let me check that. Does anyone know? Yeah, we can trade both. In fact, it's not that I would necessarily be limited to it, but somehow I have a reversal in my mind. So it's range and reversals. We can still take a look at the others, though. Odd is broke at yesterday's top, and that doesn't look like double top anymore, right? We said maybe at the very minimum this could be double top, but even that I highly doubt it because of the fact that we're still making that daily highs. We had another high here, so this is, if anything, it's still pushing. Although we can see a bit of a slowdown here. If you connect the tops and bottoms, I'll use a different color. I don't think this deep pink is the best for you to see. Let me use purple. There. That looks a bit like a rising wedge. So rising wedges are good if you sell at the top or upon the break. Although upon the break, you have to realize that if it's a very strong uptrend, it will just break a bit and find support already here and then move up again. And I think with the odd, it definitely does have that potential to bounce anywhere along here, around 95, 94, 80 for upside. That's a broken top here and a support level plus a fib. 95, 94, 80 has a high potential for a bounce to the upside. But maybe selling at around 95, 80 where there is a target at the top of that wedge would make sense. Right now, how much can you expect from that move, from that short? Probably not much, because I do think that 97 is the bigger target. So what you probably see is maybe a move down. We can put a fib up to here, and what you probably see is a move down maybe to one of these fibs. So that would be the target if you are selling it from here. And the stop loss wouldn't have to be much, maybe. Well, that would have to be a fixed number of pips, unfortunately, because there's no fractal to hide that stop loss. And usually a minus 272 doesn't get breached by more than 20 pips, I would say. It could push through 10 or 15, so you don't want to put it too tight. So that would be a reverse idea. If you aim for targets, those are pretty good reversal spots as well. But you have to be a bit more careful with the stop loss because it depends on the time frame. In fact, if the bigger the time frame, the more price could push through and still respect it. Because, for example, a weekly minus 272 target, if price goes through it by 30 pips and then bounces, on the weekly chart it looks like an exact hit almost, right? Because the spaces, the difference between the high and the low of the chart, right, literally from here to here is a lot more on the weekly chart than on this 1 hour chart. which means that here it's 95.80 to 92.80. There's 200 pips in between the top of the screen and the bottom of the screen. So 10, 20 pips is a big difference. The weekly chart has 1-1 here and 58. That's 5,000 pips difference. Logically speaking, if the odd were to go down to 83.60 here, which is the target, but not stop at 83.60, but not stop at 83.75, but at 83.30, that's 50 pips difference, but it still is right at the minus 272. So it's all dependent on that time frame. I think you get the point. So those are two ideas we can have on the odd. Let's take a look at the Kiwi. The Kiwi 2 might be, it's in this uptrend channel, in fact. We probably have to, I mean, that's a strong uptrend. Can we expect a reversal right in here? Maybe a bit. We do have this top. We do have some wicks. So we could maybe move back to find support, for example, at these broken tops and these moving averages. So that could be a reversal trade, right? We are not able to push through that top as yet. Now, as always, reversal trades don't have much space, as you can see, because we could be bouncing anywhere between here and here, if not higher. So how much space is that? 83.60. We would need to wait for a break of this, maybe a hook back. So you're looking at 40, 50 pips in here. If it breaks down, right? Which it could though, because we are making maybe a small inverse head and shoulders here. So that's something we can keep an eye on a Kiwi. Dollar Swissy is in the uptrend, but we're at the bottom of uptrend. So there's no reversal trade here. There's only a potential bounce with the trend potential here. There could be a reversal trade in a way if we break this uptrend channel and maybe hook back and continue. But dollar CAD. Well, it could be a reversal trade right here, in fact. I think I still had the entry order, in fact, right here. Probably should have put it a bit lower, though, because we can see that there's a 272 target right here. So that could be a bouncing spot right now. That could be used as a... The currency missed it by 2 pips, but 2 pips is so close. So let's take a look at the 5-minute world. So once again, just to put it in perspective, we've had some upside here. Retracing now maybe back to this consolidation zone, which could be a bouncing spot. We're also retesting this support level right in here. So it could be a bounce and then maybe continue, maybe break, we'll see. That's something we'll have to judge later on. But currently, if you look at this 1-hour chart, you can see the potential of this correction like that. And we are at the target of that correction, plus this bottom. So it could be a bouncing spot. probably the best way, because we don't know if this is really going to get the bounce or not, is to wait probably for a 5-minute move up and a hook back. And this lower high could be the one that you want to look at, or the next break of the 5-minute fractal. There's still a band here you can see. We always use the band, as you know. And the band will be resistance if this pushes up for that weakness, right? We still need a lower high here anyhow, most likely. In most cases, we do get that. If you like to trade a lot, you could even take it right in here, I guess, with the tight stop loss below the bottom, which is at 103.03. I'll wait for that hook back because I'm in this trade already. In fact, we talked about it last week. I should have moved it down a bit this morning, though. In fact, I was looking for a breakout with the trend breakout of this green line to the upside, but that never materialized. So we'll keep an eye on the dollar CAD as well. The dollar yen, I would not be looking for a reversal personally because I'm expecting a potential bounce off 98.10. Why is that? If you put a fib on this up move from here to here, there could still be one more push up to 99.50, and that might happen from the 382 fib and these support levels. Considering the fact that the currency is very close to that potential support, taking a reversal trade right in here definitely doesn't match up regarding reward to risk in any case, that's for sure. So no, there's only a with the trend setup, I think, from here potentially, if we do get a bounce there. Pound yen quite choppy after that that up move. Well, if anything, there could be a reversal trade, but it's more of a reversal swing trade because we have divergence between these tops. We did close below the band here, which means that this could be retracement, especially in considering the fact that we have divergence between the daily tops. We have double top here. Let's go back to the 4 hours. So we have an uptrend, yes, but we have definitely some signals indicating a potential reversal. If you look at this chart, this could be a 5-wave as well. We don't have to be adding wave experts to know the fact that there are 5 waves and potential ABCs, right? So that could be a reversal setup there. We could put a fib on this downside, and the currency stopped at the 618. So probably a break below this band would indicate that potential to move down, but be careful of this bottom still though, because you never know, currencies can always still do this before they actually move down. All right, but a break below the band could be a reversal setup for the pound yen, I would think. Now, how to enter that one would probably be best on the 1 hour chart maybe. We got some potential support here, but if we break that, then we have some space to the downside. This was very, very choppy. We can take a look at that on a lower time frame. These were a lot of spikes up and down, and that definitely was aided by the pound, that did the same. This is looking like a potential reversal right in here. We hit the 618. We were trying to push up to that target probably, and we made a pretty fast down move correction, and it looks like we're continuing. But what I would be scared of to short here is just because we're very close to support. So I wouldn't be looking at that right in here. I don't like those trend lines. I, as you know, don't want to go short right in front of potential support and long in front of resistance. Now that particular reversal signals for longer term downside, the euro yen has as well, as we know, we talked about it. But those things can take very long to play out, especially daily divergence. You're not talking about something that happens within the next hour. That can take long. And the EJ has moved up quite a lot. It's already at the 618 fib. And in fact, yesterday even tried to push up to the 786. And we got more or less a double top there. So yesterday we were talking about the EJ, in fact, and we said a break of one of these two lines would be good maybe for trade. We got the upside break eventually. A break, pull back, continue up to that double top. So we can take those lines off now. Other than that, it's kind of a wacky formation. I don't know. I don't see anything interesting here. I mean, double top, yes, it could be a reversal, but still, I don't know. It's still making here this is a higher high, right? A higher lows, and we have a band now acting as support, and price is going back to that. If anything, this could definitely still be a bouncing area. Price is pretty close to that area, so I don't see much potential anymore to the downside. I guess the only reversal trade that might make sense logically is in fact the 786 fib, right? If the currency moves up to the 786 fib, another 60 pips to the upside, that would be a high likely bouncing spot, the 786 at around 134.10. We could wait, for example, for a candlestick reversal pattern at the 786 to sorry, I lost my train of thought here. I was reading I was reading your message, Kenneth. Anyhow, 786 might be a resistance spot, and a candlestick pattern might give that confirmation. Another, of course, method would be to wait for a break of this pink line, right, for downside. In here, I don't really find it too attractive at the moment. So we went through a few of them. I'll just go back to New Zealand. Kaylin was asking if we can go to 85.05. Yeah, definitely. I mean, let's take a look. The 886 fib is at 85.60, so we could go to 85.60, I think, even once we break above the top. But we are having a bit of a struggle here to break that. Looking at well, it still could push. We still have, I would say, at least the next 4 to 8 hours to push above this top. But on the 1 hour chart, we can definitely see some struggle. The 4 hour chart is, no problem, Kayla. Normally I can combine both. I can read and talk at the same time. It's just this time it didn't work. So please, by all means, I appreciate all comments. So the 1 hour chart is having a bit of a struggle there indeed. Otherwise, after that, if it does break, I think 85.60 to 886 FIB could be the target. The CAD, yeah, the dollar CAD. To be honest, I totally didn't look at this entry order today. It totally escaped my attention. Otherwise, I would have definitely moved it down, or maybe deleted it. But yeah, that's remember last week the top 25 mistakes. Don't forget to analyze your pending orders or forget. Well, that's what happened to me today. That's what happens sometimes to me if I have trades on for a longer period of time, which is not the best practice, but what can you do? Luckily, the stop loss is pretty tight. I think, no, I have it a bit higher, in fact. I'll move that up, in fact, because I will use 103.07 as the bouncing spot here. Yes, this could be the bouncing spot, indeed. But I'll move my stop loss a bit tighter. Let's see. I think that this support level would be a logical place, I think, for it to bounce together with this 272. Yes. So, but if it does break this, usually I would say use about 10 to that says 20 pips probably. In this case, we could make it tighter, I think, because of this support level. Maybe 102.97. Maybe even 103.03, but that could be a bit too tight maybe. The target, well, the target, in fact, it's more, would have to be, a realistic target would probably be 103.65. I think nothing higher, because once we get to that level, you can see bottoms in here, the trend line, that could be resistance for that downside. So I'll adjust the take profit to 103.65. Now we might have to adjust that take profit because the bounce here could be very weak. If it is weak, if we see a bear flag like that, move it to break even. All right, because this band could act as resistance. Price could do something like that, hit this band, and then fall for one more time. And when you're trading reversals, you have to be aware of this potential and not be fixed at that take profit. Maybe even, if it's depending on the situation, maybe even take profit there, or either at least move it to break even. So let's see. It's right at that target. Now, is the target always a guarantee it will bounce? No, but it does happen a good percentage of times. Alrighty, back to the euro and pound maybe quickly. Wow. I don't know what's happening. Thanks, Kalen, for that heads up. The euro is really, really pushing indeed. Really a bit funky moves. I mean, yesterday's up, down, up. was at minimum a very funny sight to see. If you look at this chart, how many ups and downs it has made. But looking, I guess, now at the fact that we broke 135.70, this downside is now, if anything, almost a confirmed correction, right? There were definitely people who thought that this could have been a reversal, in fact, for a bigger downside. I had a bit of my doubts, but I expected maybe a bit deeper retracement than this. This is a quite shallow retracement, in fact. It only went to 134.70. So that was quite shallow. Now we knew when we were shorting it yesterday that we were aiming for 134.60, right? We did that on purpose because we knew that that is a potential support. So 134.70, 134.60, 10 pips give or take, that can happen. So basically just bounced off this daily support. That's really looking very, very bullish, in fact. With that in mind, I think we can expect continuation of the euro in the long term or intermediate term up to 137 now, and later on to 138.50, which are these targets, and 137 is the bigger top. Now, will we go there in one shot? No, we still have some resistance here. But in the grand scheme of things, now that we've broken 135.67, which is an important high because we bounce off these long-term moving averages. When we break the next resistance, that usually is an indication of a 4-hour breakout to the upside. So definitely bullish now in this like intermediate long-term, depending what you call long-term, but let's say intermediate future up to 137, 138.50. And once we break 137, which is still a major level, by the way, once we break 137, then the long-term picture, I would say we can even head up to 140, 142. So these are definitely important numbers. Very interesting. Well, it's good we waited with that short idea of the range. I did expect this trend line to break, in fact, but not happening. Which gap, Kalen, are you talking about? Near 33? Because I don't really keep an eye on gaps that much. Ah, there. Doesn't look so, indeed. No, not for the moment. I mean, eventually it will. It will go back to 133 after it hits 138.50. You know, eventually it will go back to that level. It'll just take some time, probably. Probably, right? Because really, this level is really key for me. 135.70, that top makes it very, very bullish now. In fact, if anything, for those of you who like swing trades, an entry order, but I don't think many would have taken that trade anyhow, but an entry order above 135, this 4-hour top, with a stop loss on the opposite side, targeting 138.50 would be a decent swing trade idea, in my opinion. But you have to use this as a stop loss because anything within this is just putting your stop loss from a swing trade perspective in the middle of the playing field. But I don't know, not many probably will take that trade because, or yeah, that's a 100 pip stop loss. It's quite big. So with this impulse, I think upside potential to 137 is really becoming very high. And once, as I said, once we break 137, then it's really getting interesting because then we can expect more upside. Let's take a look at this 5-minute chart. This is a very big impulse. Was there anything announced, or? Doesn't look so. Wow. With this impulse, you can expect that if you look at the 5-minute chart, every high is cut here. If you want to trade a reversal, I wouldn't do it at the moment on the euro dollar because it's too impulsive. Do you see what I mean? Look at this 5-minute chart and you see every high is cut. Every 5-minute candle has a higher high. Doesn't make sense to think about any reversals here. Right? This is a very significant breakout. So it makes no sense to trade against that flow at the moment. I know many probably even though it's breaking to the upside, many might have that in mind, like maybe can we fade this move, right? Is the potential to take a reversal trade in here? But in this case, I would definitely not recommend it. The only thing we could wait for regarding a reversal trade is if we let 5-minute chart basically go as high as it wants, making and the best way to measure is let this chart keep making higher highs. Eventually, at one point, the 5-minute chart is going to stop with this impulse. You're going to see, let me give you a practical example from the past, just recent past. Oh, we have one right here, the downside. Look at these 5-minute candles. It's easier for me to explain it. All of these lows are being cut. Every low. Here, finally, well, there are two zones, here and here. We have two areas where the lows don't get cut every single candle. But count how many candles didn't break the low. 1, 2, 3. The fourth broke. How about here? 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth broke it. Does anyone remember how many candles are important to keep an eye on? So how many candles do you need not breaking the low before you can consider that impulse over? Kaylin says 6. Does anyone agree? Graham says 4. Arn says 3. And Janina says 2. Well, that's good. We got a wide representation. The answer, in fact, is indeed what Kaylin says. Kaylin was right in this case. Good job, Kaylin. I don't have many minutes. I wish I could give you more indicators for the right answer. I don't have many more, unfortunately, but that was good indeed. Yes, typically 5 to 6. On a higher time frame, it tends to be 5. But on the 5-minute chart, indeed, you want to be careful with the 6th one, because what I've noticed in practical situations that the 6th could break as well, especially if that one is still kind of like pushing to break. Also, I should mention on the 5-minute chart that often enough, even if you have one zone of 5 candles or 6 candles not breaking a higher low, you could still have the very last push that breaks at about 8 pips, maybe 5 to 8 pips. But then the next one is the very last one. In this case, we don't have it. We have here the impulse, right? So where could you take a potential reversal trade here on this 5-minute chart? You see this thing is flying down, right? Forget all the levels you have in mind here. It just flies, flies, flies. You can use time factor on the 5-minute chart easily, right, to have an idea where it could stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th candle. 7th doesn't break. This is now the end of the impulse. This impulse is more or less over, and we get the reversal. And you can take a reversal trade right in here and the stop loss in this case is not as easy because I was explaining the fact that you can always have one last break. So in this case, you are exposed to maybe a small dip below the bottom before it could go up. If we would have had one more dip here and then a 30-minute pause, then you could use this easily as a stop loss and take a reversal trade in here. In this case, maybe you want to incorporate sometimes the likelihood of a small bottom break, which means that you would have to probably put a stop loss about 15 pips below the bottom at 57, 134.57, especially because we have 134.62 acting as support, right, logically. And you could have taken a buy around 87 for 30 pip stop loss here, right? That would have been a reversal trade idea. So that's what I'm talking about, the upside. Doesn't make sense to short it now. We have to let that thing ride up and wait for something like this. Then you can take a reversal trade to the downside. Something like this, for example, here. This became a bull flag. In fact, we got one more push up, right? It also depends on the time of the day. If an additional extra benefit of taking a reversal trade is if you see the impulse ending at the end of London. Why is that an extra benefit? Well, because when London closes, basically the euro dollar, let's say this impulse is over, right? This impulse happened in the New York session. Or did it? No. It was end of the morning London session. Well, anyhow, if the impulse ends close, let's say New York open, then what you have remaining is the end of New York in Asia, and usually the euro doesn't continue with that impulse, right? So if you have an impulse like that close to the end of the day, and then you have a half an hour pause without cutting the low, well then you've got two benefits. You have the time factor, but also the volatility decreases, which definitely aids the reversal trade. And you can see this is a typical example, especially if you have a very strong impulse here. This is a typical example where you have 2, 4, 6, 7 candles still breaking the low, right? Because this is so strong that the half an hour pause here, this would be too early to take a reversal trade in here. You still get one more push down, and often the next push, then that one is the last one, meaning that once you see this setup, you know that the next one, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, around here, would be an okay reversal trade. And in that case, you can use the bottom, which is, in this case, 134.79. You put a few pips below there, 134.75, and you could have entered, I don't know, anywhere in here, depending on how aggressive you want to trade that. So yeah, the stop loss could be anything from 10 to 20 or 25, I guess. Well, once again, the stop loss has everything to do with, I know I'm going into this thing a bit deeper than maybe some like it, but just to make everything clear, the stop loss is if you have a small period zone like this, and then the next break, then you can use the bottom. If you have the first 5-minute period like that, you are exposed to one more downside. So that really depends on, this is still too early in the day. This is only 10:35 London. Let's see, the other one here was, you see the difference between that left one and this one? This was already the end of London, right? 5, yeah. So in this case, you still might want to put a stop loss 15 pips below the bottom. All right, so it's either under the bottom or 15 pips below the bottom. The take profit is any resistance or support area that you think makes sense. In the case of yesterday, for example, well, let's see. In case of yesterday, this bounced in here. Well, probably the best would have been to put a fib on and aim for one of these fibs. I would say 618 or 786 probably. But you know, sometimes you don't get a retracement, but you get a total reversal. If you would have maybe split the position into a bigger position taking profit here and a very small position just hanging on and seeing if it could make that bigger reversal, well, then you would be smiling from ear to ear right now, because you would be up 100 and I don't know, 30 pips or so. So it really depends if you're targeting the retracement or a potential bigger reversal. And if you do see something too choppy in your opinion, you can always take it off, right? So as you can see, in the meantime, after I've been talking for quite a while about this reversal setup on the using time factor on any time frame, but we're now specifically looking at the 5-minute chart, you can see in the meantime, 2 bars later, that yes, indeed, every high is being cut. So that also leads to a scalping trade idea with the trend, doesn't it? If every 5-minute high gets cut, then you could make longs in here. But where do you put your stop loss? If you have that answer, tell me, we can trade it together. Maybe a fixed number of stop losses. I've never looked into that, in fact, but it could be an interesting scalping idea, because this is the impulse. Right? So anyone who's interested in testing that, let me know. But maybe a fixed number, because you don't have any fractal to put your stop loss here. So it would have to be a fixed number of pips. I'm not a big fan of that, but in this case, maybe it would work. Or maybe using the candle low, for example. The 1-minute candle low, even, to put the stop loss. So go along here, put the stop loss at 135.82, go along at 135.92, aim for 1-to-1. I don't know. It's just an idea. I didn't test that. So anyhow, that's the reversal on the pound, the idea on the euro. This is the pound, and that's still moving up as well, but didn't really break resistance. But well, we were thinking that the pound indeed could make that reversal, right? We said yesterday that it has the potential to go to the 50, 618 as a bigger retracement of this downside. Now, how can we take that reversal to the upside? In this case, I think it's a bit difficult right now. I mean, I don't see any opportunity to do that because it's right at the top of a trend line. So let me answer one question, okay? Give me a minute to answer Florida's question. He's asking, what with that impulse of higher highs, what does it mean? What is happening with the currency pair? Well, what is happening is that if every candle high, if it's an uptrend, every candle high basically gets broken. Or in a downtrend, every candle low gets broken. It doesn't really matter what time frame. That's the impulse. That's the part of the move that is happening fast. If it's a choppy move and highs get broken, lows get broken, but it's a mixture, then that's the correction. So that's what it means. Let's move to a 1 hour chart just to give you a different example than the 5 minute. Look at this 1 hour down move. Look at every candle hour gets cut except right in here, 2 of them, but the third breaks, and we know that's okay. It's a fractal, but we know that 5 is important. Every candle low gets broken. Here 1 candle doesn't. Gets broken, doesn't, gets broken, and then we get 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th candle did break the low a bit, but it was bullish, funny enough. Then we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right in here. That's the end of the impulse. We did get still down move, but it became a double bottom, and we got a bigger retracement. In this case, that upside reversal trade really didn't go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere because it just bounced up and down. So, taking that reversal trade somewhere in here didn't give us much value because it turned into just a choppy retracement. Now, for those of you who are wondering what a fractal is, a fractal is just actually a moment where there's 2 candles to the left or right where the high or low isn't broken at minimum. So let's take a look at this one here. That candle high is higher than 2 candles to the left and 2 candles to the right. In fact, there are more candles to the left and more candles to the right, but the minimum is 2. If there are 2 to the left and 2 to the right, then there's a fractal. Here too, there's a small fractal because that low, that candle low, is lower than 2 candles to the left and 2 candles to the right. So it's just an easy way to spot support and resistance and highs and lows. Wow, the euro pound is moving up as well. Because if we take fractals off, let's take fractals off for a moment. I mean, we could logically, I mean, it's not that we couldn't see where the tops and bottoms are. This is a top, this is a bottom, this is a top, this is a bottom. But still, in my opinion, I don't know, it just gives that extra, it just makes it easier for my eyes somehow, and I don't have to really search for them that much, and it's just like, there they are. It's just kind of easier. The euro pound, in fact, is breaking to the upside. Wow, that's a shame. I had entry order here and it didn't get there. That's a pity. Well, no reversal trading on the euro pound because that's breaking to the upside. So dollar yen is really getting close here to that bounce. I'm glad you like that, Kellen. That's good to hear. Kellen says it looks nicer with these fractals. Cool. Yeah, I like them too. I definitely like them too. I think it makes it just easier to read everything. Let's take a look maybe at this euro odd. Do we have any other reversal ideas? Let's Aussie. What's Aussie doing? Aussie is pushing up. It's getting close to that 70, that 80 zone that we were talking about. So we can keep an eye on the 5-minute world here. All right. There's no need to necessarily take an entry order at this 272 right now, because we can take a look at the 5-minute world and see how far this pushes up. If it pushes through the 272, we just let it push through it. Right. It will give us, once the high, we don't get a higher high on the 5-minute world, then that's probably the best time to take that reversal trade to the downside on the Aussie. Because we could push through the 272, right? I mean, an entry right at that level is always possible, but why take the risk if you know this time factor, what I've just explained to you. What else were we looking at? I think that's it, right? Okay, euro odd. Well, what do we have here? Looks like a downtrend, doesn't it? Prices making lower lows, lower highs. Broke the bottom in here. Yes, indeed, Kalen. Kalen says there's a channel, and I agree, because that looks pretty neat, in fact. Now there is some divergence probably between these bottoms on the daily chart as well, but I think we talked about it yesterday, didn't we? I'm not sure. The fact that there is divergence doesn't mean necessarily that that will play out right away, immediately, right now. Right? There could be still a few more drops before we see that effect, see that divergence have an effect on the currency, in fact. I have this fib on as well. That's the last swing high, swing low on this 4-hour chart. Maybe we can even do this, in fact. Let's see. We're getting a bit of a double bottom. That maybe has to do with time factor as well, if you look at it, funny enough. 1 second. Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 candles couldn't break the bottom of the 4-hour chart. And funny enough, didn't break it. Isn't it funny? Couldn't break it. That would have been one of those reversal trades, wouldn't it? I still think, though, that looking at this downtrend channel, a move up here will face resistance, maybe at the 618. So that would be a risk to trend idea. What we could look at, for example, is maybe 1-hour chart. Look for maybe the time factor again. Let it hit that 618. Wait for 4 or 5 candles that can break the next high, and put a entry below the fractal and your stop loss above, for example, and target the minus 272. That could be idea on the euro odd as well. But at the moment we're kind of halfway. I don't know. This could still push up to higher fibs. I wouldn't want to trade that, because we're close to these tops. The potential to the upside is very limited. No, that doesn't make sense. So I would move on. Euro New Zealand, probably the same story as the pound New Zealand, probably as well. Let's take a look at the pound odd. Let me get rid of these lines. Also a pretty nice channel indeed. Trending very nicely. Oh, like that. Now I like the euro odd a bit more, in fact. So I was trading the euro odd, but the pound odd right in here. But both made, in fact, the same kind of, just because there was some divergence between these bottoms. But the pound odd actually did a bit better than the euro odd because the pound odd went to the target. The euro odd didn't. And you can see that this was a great pullback. That's the one I was trading on the euro odd, in fact, but the pound odd did better. So yeah, this is making a lot of trend, pullback, trend, pullback, trend, pullback, trend, pullback, trend, pullback, trend. Maybe now again, trend, right? So no, there's no reversal trade here, that's for sure. Not at the moment. I don't know where that could happen. I don't see any potential as yet to trade this to the upside. I guess the only way would be a break above this trend channel. That would probably be the only reversal trade that really makes sense. And we could actually move this fib down and fib the next swing high, swing low maybe. Although it's a bit early, we could already do that. And the currency seems to stop at 618. So for a reversal trade, really, it would have to break this top, I think, and the channel. Otherwise, maybe only reversals if we really move lower substantially and find some major daily support, maybe around 163. Still very far from now, though. So it doesn't really make sense to talk about that. Yeah, sure, Florida. Basically, fractals they're just tops and bottoms. And some fractals would definitely be more important than others. This fractal right in here is more important than this fractal right in the middle. But they all share one common element, is that they have, at minimum, 2 candles to the left and 2 candles to the right. And their importance is just in the fact that we can see tops and bottoms easier, or major support and resistances, in fact, right? All of these fractals are in some way a support or resistance because price paused there for at least 2 candles and didn't break that low. And if price doesn't break a low, then we know that is, if it keeps breaking lows or keeps breaking highs, we know that the market is on the move. But if it fails to do that for 2, then we have a fractal, and we know that that's a potential, that is a support and resistance and could be even become a bigger level, right? But if it only has 2 candles and it continues after that, then it's not really a key support or resistance. In fact, maybe we should make a fractal of our own. And is anyone a programmer here? And say, we don't want a fractal at 2, but at 5 candles. That would be cool. And we can use that for time factor. So fractals are basically 2 candles already. Oh wow, the odd is really pushing up now. And that's why, for the, maybe, I don't know, is the person here, Adrian, are you here? Adrian isn't here. That's a pity. Because Adrian was, the reason why I was telling Adrian to be careful with assuming double top in here is I've made that mistake before. And just because price is at a top doesn't mean it will be double top. Price has to go through a top to make a newer high. There's always that point where price has to go through something. It will be at that level for, for a while before it pushes through, but it doesn't mean it has to be a double top reversal pattern. That's why I was telling everyone that look at this daily chart. We're making higher highs on every single candle here. Ever since here, we've made higher highs, with exception of this 1, 2, break, 1, 2, break, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth broke, break, break, break. That's exactly in line with an impulse, although one could say that this on a 4-hour chart was a bit of a pause. That set aside, though, it's still an impulse, though. That's why I was warning, don't consider it double top, because it's cutting the high, and it could keep doing that, and it is keep doing that, right? So that's why we have to be also very careful with that 272 target idea and let this 5-minute world really go where it wants to. I don't know where the fib is. I lost it. I'll put back that fib. You see, it's even pushing through that. So let me see, 5-minute euro dollar is still pushing. And you can see the 1-minute world up, small bull flag, continue. This will go on still. We'll still get a bit more of a retrace, then one more push to get 1-minute divergence. Then we'll get a bigger retrace, then one more push up for 5-minute divergence. So this can keep pushing. So we have to really, no reversal trades in here. Watch out. This is, we had 1, 2, 3 candles, but the fourth one is already breaking, right? So the impulse is still continuing. How about the pound? We can look at the 5-minute chart too, still continuing. No reversal trade there, odd as well. Kiwi is pushing. So that reversal trade idea is out of the window because we're pushing above that resistance as we speak. A lot of dollar weakness now. Dollar Swissy broke. Wow. Yeah, the dollar is not getting the bounce. And in fact, we could have used the 5-minute rule, the 5-minute time factor rule, in fact, here as well, which was, I just didn't think about it at the time, but that would have been wise, in fact. But the thing, the reason why I didn't think about it probably was because I didn't see this as an impulse yet. It was just a choppy, slow move down, so I didn't think about that. That's why. But yeah, in reality, it is true that if you look at this downside, although it didn't move that much, we did have every half hour a newer low, newer low, newer low, newer low. So yeah, a lot of dollar weakness. Even the dollar yen is pushing through. Wow. Interesting stuff. But there is no reversal trade. We have to wait and be patient because this is just flying up. That has no sense to trade a reversal right in here because you would get squashed. And that would have totally no sense. I mean, that would be shorting it right in a tremendous tsunami that can keep going. So tsunami maybe is not the best word, choice of words, but I mean, how do I say it? A lot of force, right? A lot of power. Any questions regarding that? Because that's basically, yeah, it's going to take time. I don't think it'll happen. We need it. In our session, it's not going to happen. Let me say it this way, because we need at least 30 minutes pause, as we know, right? 35. So we have 13 minutes left, so it's not going to happen. So I don't know if anyone has any questions I can still answer, maybe, because otherwise, these reversal trades are not going to happen. I don't know if we missed any currency, in fact. I think the major ones we really covered. We can take a look at gold if you want. Wow, that got a blast up here. Wow. Not bad. $50 increase on gold. Within the hour. Let's see. Pound odd. Oh, there it is. Yeah, pound odd definitely looks bearish. Let's take a look. We just had a recent higher high, but it had a big wick. So this is only the second candle here. So I think we still have some time to wait for that. We could look, for example, well, we can take a look at multiple currencies, time frames, 4-hour chart. Let's see, 15. Yeah, this is probably a top, most likely, in my opinion. But what you could see is a choppiness a bit here for another few hours and then a drop. So one way of entering is either, if you see a couple of hours, 4 or 5 hours, 5 hours here, take an entry order right there with a stop loss here and hope for that drop, or enter upon the break of this fractal. It's not a fractal yet, but it will become one, which is the low at 167.20, below the low there, with a stop loss above the same spot. Or if you like fibs, you can even put an entry order at the fib itself, but that has been already completed. The currency hit the 618 and reverted from there. Right? Otherwise, I would say, why not? It could definitely continue in this downtrend channel. We do have divergence. That's the only thing that worried me last time around with the pound odd, but still we got one more downside. And we could have it again. But maybe because of the divergence that is now already 3 times, that is maybe a pretty significant, right? 3 times. Maybe therefore you want to be more careful and maybe wait for the breakout or at least some time factor to get that confirmation that the currency is indeed stopping here. Typically, I would put an entry order at a fib if there's not multiple divergences, right? When you have multiple divergences, then the likelihood of a retracement or a deeper pullback is increasing. So the odd is getting some rejection, a bit higher than we expected, 95.95. Let's see. This is just very fresh. We still have a higher high on this candle. We would definitely need, as I said, we need a half an hour of pause. Then we know that that impulsive part of the market is over, 30 to 35 minutes, right? So what do we have here? We got a bit of a wick. That's because of the 1 minute divergence here, right? Got 1 minute divergence there. So it's going to make a retracement here. But in general, this is bad divergence between the 1 minute chart, right? That's bad divergence. Why is it bad divergence? Because the oscillator hasn't gone back to the zero line yet, which means one more push up here is likely. Now where could that be? Most likely above this bottom, sorry. Probably still get a choppy move up that breaks this top, maybe by just a few pips, probably 3 to 5, right? Then we get a reversal from here, most likely, because we have divergence between the 1 minute world. That's what I would say is the most likely path of least resistance, right? Something like that. Then we get probably, then I would say, depending on the situation. I mean, I said a choppy move up, but we don't know that. It could still continue in an impulsive fashion to the upside, right? I don't want to exclude that. But I would say slight preference there. I mean, slight probability is higher that it will be choppy. And just break the top, then make a 5 minute reversal. You won't, for example, we will not break this top for 30, 35 minutes, and then we can maybe expect a bigger retracement. Now, how far could that retracement go? Oh, because if you look at this 1 hour chart, well, in fact, maybe I correct myself. Look at that 1 hour candle. Sometimes it's good to look at multiple time frames. Let me get rid of these fibs, in fact. Sometimes it's good to look at multiple time frames because then you put some stuff into perspective, and that's a huge, huge bullish candle, right? Tremendous bullish candle. And basically, we could maybe expect, I reverse my words, looking at this candle, I mean, we should be careful. There could be some couple of candles still pushing up here on this $0 hourly. So most likely, if we push up, make a 30-minute pause here, that retracement, I don't expect it to go far. It could maybe go halfway this candle, maybe max. That will probably, it's very dangerous at this. This is a pretty bullish candle. We'll have to see. If we have, preferably, if we get maybe a few more hourly candles, and then the 35-minute pause, then take a reversal trade, maybe back to the broken levels here at 136, 135.80, which could be again a bouncing spot. So you definitely need some patience if you want to catch that reversal, right? Because it really doesn't make sense here. we have plenty of time to wait and see where a potential retracement could happen. And then even then, you know, be careful of this zone, as I said, because that would be your target zone. Also, mind you that this is a pretty high oscillator reading. This most likely will go back to the zero line. That's when we can expect, in fact, the next break to the upside to get divergence on the 5-minute world. So there's really plenty of bullishness left. And in fact, that's why I wondered if it wouldn't be even better to scalp it to the upside, because once you have this, look at this 1 minute. Higher high, higher low, higher low. All of it is just pushing, pushing, pushing. But you can't put a stop loss here under a fractal. You could only look, basically you could only use a fixed number. That's the only solution here. Like Todontala does, like 10, 15 pips probably. Or use the 1 minute low, in fact. This would have been a very good breakout trade, in fact. Very nice. The odd was already set up in an uptrend. That was a good with the trend breakout there. But we were looking for reversals today. The euro and pound breakouts that we did break out here, to me really, I didn't even think about it. I mean, we were so stuck in front of that resistance. As you said, I don't like, as you know, I don't like to go long right in front of that resistance. So, well, I guess that wraps it up. If there's any question or two, then let me know. Otherwise, I will wrap it up for today because I need to pop out in just a few minutes from now. Anyhow, I know that I have half an hour, so I might as well do an errand now before the reversal setup, right? It's good to know something about time factor. You know when to be back in front of the screen. Florida has a question. It is asking bearish and bullish candles. Yes, no problem at all. Basically, what it boils down to is that in my chart, blue candles are bullish, red candles are bearish. And a bullish candle basically means that the close of that particular candle, which in this case is 5-minute world, but we can easily show an example on the 1-hour world, doesn't matter which time frame. The close is above the open, and in a bearish candle, the close is below the open, which means that the sentiment of that hour, or whatever time frame, because the close is below the open, is bearish, and if the close is above the open, then the sentiment of that hour is bullish, which means with sentiment I mean that the dominant side of that particular time frame was bullish or bearish. So if the candle closes bullish, that means the bulls were in control of that particular candle. Now there are some exceptions, of course. This is a bullish candle, right? Technically speaking, we have a close which is higher than the open. But what do we see here? A huge wick, right? So that doesn't convey much confidence in the bulls keeping control, in that hour, because there's a huge wick, which means that at this point in time, that was the high of that candle. But the close was all the way down here. Does that help? Caitlin is saying same thing with the dollar CAD, and has euro bullish divergence. Oh, the dollar CAD has bullish divergence. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, we were talking about it yesterday. Huh? Yeah, there is that. Anything above this 102.88, right, is still bullish divergence. In fact, that's probably why I put that stop loss there. But well, when is it buy or sell? It really depends on your trading strategy. And the rules you have connected to your trading plan. Some people use, indeed, candlesticks for their trading plan, like pin bars, that means a big wick, inside bars. They use these particular specific candlesticks or patterns to trade. Others use tools and indicators to make those decisions. You know, that depends really on many factors. That's not a question that can be answered right here, right now, within a minute. The best is to, in fact, in that case, go to Admiral Markets website, go to education, go to webinars, and go to live webinars. Sign up, for example, today, this evening, trend definition at its best, and go to the video archive and go through these videos. It's the entire year full of different type of topics. And if you go through all of them, then it's at least a good start. And then the next step is to actively work on your trading plan and a lot of screening time, as Nenad says. Okay. So I hope that helps, Florida. I have to really run now, unfortunately. But thanks all for being here. I wish you great trading today. And I hope to see you tonight, right? Thanks, Kaden, and everyone else for all these comments. And talk to you soon. Cheers.
The organizer has ended the session, and this call will